Welcome back to the Let's Talk Baseball podcast. I am your host, Michael Herrera, joined by my good friend and co-host, Jacob Payne. And we got a lot of fun baseball to talk to you about. The Dodgers and Orioles, they had a fun series. The Orioles, they make the first move of the looming trade weeks. That's gonna be fun. Speaking of those, Jacob, they're tied for first with the Rays, starting a 4-game series with the Rays tonight. We'll get into that for a little bit. The Dodgers didn't sweep the O's. You know who did get swept, Jacob? The New York Yankees by the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Are they back? Is Shohei not getting traded? Not to the Dodgers. We'll talk about that in a second. And some other stuff around the league we'll obviously get into. And let's get into it. But first, of course, Jacob, how have you been, man? How's life been treating you?
Doing good, doing good. Yeah, it was a fun series with the O's that the Dodgers just had, huh? And very interesting to see the last place team in the AL East, that is the Yankees, not being able to convert in Anaheim. Very interesting and excited to get into it.
We definitely will. In your standings, start with the AL first, because I guess we're gonna crump it and do the Yanks versus A's Halos first. In the AL East, of course, as I've mentioned, the Baltimore Orioles and Tampa Bay Rays tied for first place. Then the Toronto Blue Jays, 54 and 45 games back. The Boston Red Sox, who are 7 and 3 in their last 10, have been kind of hot. 51 and 46 in the 51 and 46, and of course the Yankees, 3 games above 500. Jacob, 3 games. 54 and 47. The same record as the first place Minnesota Twins, 54 and 50 and 47. And then you got the Cleveland Guardians, 47-49. Detroit, 44-52, 6 and 4 in their last 10. The White Sox are the White Sox, and Kansas City exists. And finally in the AL West, Texas, 56 and 39. They're hot. They just swept the Rays. Houston, 53 and 43. Angels, 1 game above 500, 49-48. Mariners, what are you doing? 47-48. Might hear a panic button for them later. And once again, the Oakland A's have a run differential of negative 256. So, I mean, I think that pretty much explains what happened this week. But I think they beat the Red Sox. So, Red Sox, what's happening? Anyway, Jacob, as we said, let's get into it. The first series of the day, Angels, Yankees, man. What a series this was. They swept the Yankees. I was like, dude, there's no way. I thought this series went. We were gonna be saying Shohei Ohtani is getting traded for sure, even if it wasn't to the Dodgers, which we'll get into all that news in a second. But they just came out, dude. Shohei is like just locked in MVP. Did you see the bat flip after his home run? That literally earned him another 100 million on his contract, because that was just fire. But they're doing it, man. They're winning it, and they're having fun out there. A pitching pitching duels in the first game, but they were doing it. I didn't think the Angels would win that one, but they did, and they started the series. So good for them. Carlos Rodon is blowing kisses to the fans. It's just not vibing in Anaheim right now. Aaron Boone came out and said that Sean Casey, the new hitting coach, is definitely making a difference, even though they just got swept. So Jacob, let me hear your thoughts on this series. I'll give mine in a bit, and we have an interesting Aaron Judge update.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tale of two teams who are definitely on the struggle bus right now. The Yankees are 2-8 in their last 10, including that series sweep right there. So that doesn't spell a pretty picture. Obviously, they're still missing their captain, which we've talked about before. Should it be the be all do all end all? If you are missing your captain, it shouldn't be that way. But obviously, things are turning around for them, and they are still 3.5 games outside of the wild card right now, the last wild card spot. So that's a tough look for the Yankees, who are, I believe, they're the second or third most highest payroll in the league, and sitting last place in their division, below the Orioles and Rays, two of the lowest payrolls in baseball. Um, I mean, that's not a good look. You're behind the Blue Jays, who have had a tough yet somewhat good beginning slash mid season. You've got the Red Sox, who we pegged to be easily the last place in this division, who granted have been fighters this season so far. It hasn't come easy, but they've been kind of grinding out some tough series wins, 7-3 in their last 10, so that's great. Yankees, man, like, what are you doing? What's going on? I mean, it's just, and what's even crazier to think about is they've got one of the best bullpens in baseball right now.
Dude, it's
Up
wild.
up to the half, I believe they had the best bullpen ERA. That's insane. I mean, you got
They're
Clay
just
Holmes back there
they're not
who
doing it.
arguably, should have made an All-Star appearance.
I agree.
Probably deserved it according to the stats. But to not be well, I mean, I wouldn't say they're not competitive, but definitely I wouldn't say they're competitive for the lead in this division.
They're
And
failing their
and
expectations and expectations that have been
absolutely,
set. Yeah.
absolutely. 100%. And I mean, it's the Yankees. They always are going to have those expectations. You're playing in New York. You're one of the most notable franchises in all of sports history, much less baseball. And for you to be, barely 500 near the trade deadline, I mean, that's scary. You're last place in the division. They're going to have to be sellers at this point. Like if they continue this and they can't make up any ground within the next 2 weeks, they're going to have to realistically be sellers. Maybe not complete sell everything you have, but they can't
Maybe
hold on to
some
everything.
rentals. Bader's a rental right now. Some guys are expiring.
And I know everybody's saying, well, okay, not everybody's saying, but there are some people out there who are like, "Oh my God, Shohei Ohtani to the Yankees."
No, no,
Get
okay.
that out of here.
Don't even
I
get
mean,
me
that's the
started on
dumb
that.
that's the dumbest thing I think anybody could ever say right now, because the Yankees aren't in a position to make trades for pieces like that,
Especially when they don't have
much
the
less.
pieces within their system.
And even if they did, it wouldn't make any sense to trade for that, assuming you could make the playoffs, much less in the position that they are right now. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's something I shouldn't have entertained anyway, because it was a
Dumb, I
something dumb I heard. But it's just I don't know how you can be an analyst of baseball and look at the Yankees in last place and say that they are the front runners to land Shohei Ohtani.
Because they were, yeah, I heard that. I saw that report too. It's like they will be
It's
most
ridiculous.
motivated. Who are you gonna trade? You have Jason Dominguez. You have Oswald Peraza. Other than that, everyone is either at the major league level or is not. The okay, we'll get into the trades in a bit, but the Yankees and the Angels, I just don't think that trade's gonna happen.
I mean, the only way that that is even semi-realistic is if you have the idea of extending him. And I don't even mean the idea. I mean, like, you've had
The
talks with
money,
Ohtani
yes.
beforehand, and like you've got it. The extension is there. You just need to make the trade. And so, I guess that would be the only way that that would make sense. But even still, the capital that it would take to lock down Shohei Ohtani for extension, on top of what the Yankees are already eating up right now as the second or third highest payroll in baseball, it'd be utterly ridiculous for them to make that sort of extension deal and to trade the pieces that it would require to get Ohtani there. It just that is one of the least sensible trades that I think have been entertained this entire pre-trade deadline talk, and
I agree.
it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't think it should be entertained any longer. Into the rest of this trade deadline talk. But that's
Yeah.
my thought.
Yeah, Yankees. Jacob Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, their position player, has pitched 4 innings for them, has a 2.25 ERA. 15 other pitchers on the Yankees have a higher ERA than that, and that's excluding Garrett Cole, who might win the Cy Young. That is wild, and they have one of the best bullpens in the league up to the first half. That's just wild to me, Jacob. It's just there's not enough going right for this team where they can be like, we're gonna make a full push, and they just can't. And I think trading rentals might be what they have to do for now. I don't know, man. Luis Severino, I think, has an option for next year, maybe, but they're just not going enough right. Judge is taking ABs in batting practice, which is always good for them, but again, like we said, even if they do get their captain back, they built such a big hole that they have to climb out of. Even like with the Cardinals, who might be climbing out of their hole. We'll get to that in a bit. But the Yankees just they can't rely on Aaron Judge to be like, let's spark this game up, let's spark this team back up. I just don't think they can, especially with where they're at right now, with how the wild card playoff standings are. Anthony Rizzo, it's been 2 months since he's hit a homer. 2 months, Jacob. Among that list of people who haven't hit a homer, is Theory Ruiz and Tim Anderson, who are contact hitters. That's wild to me. It just doesn't make any sense, Jacob, and how they're not, nothing's clicking. I remember I was like, Rizzo might be the All-Star game starter at first base. when the All-Star game first started, for voting first started, and it's just been awful. Billy McKinney has been one of their best hitters, former Dodger, and that's saying something. This team is just not in it enough. I think Stanton had a nice series, good for you. There's just not enough here. Garrett Cole, congrats, you might win the Cy Young, kid. I don't have any more points on this team, but that's just the way it is. But Jacob, let's go over to the Angel side. They had a very nice series. Trey Cabbage comes up clutch for them. Matt Thies coming up clutch for them. But of course, some of the news we got today, Jacob, or over the past couple of days, is that it will most likely take down to the last 48 hours of the deadline, which I expected to even make a decision about trading Ohtani, and that one decision has been made, and that they're definitely not trading the Dodgers, according to John Heyman, who talked with a source inside the Dodgers. And I'm going to give my opinion on that right now. I just think, as a franchise, as an owner of the franchise, as a GM, not doing that, not trading Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers. I'm not even saying this as a Dodger fan. From a statistical point of everything, it's such a missed opportunity because you would be getting such a good haul. They said they want several top 100 prospects, right? Several to me means 5 or 6. The only teams that have the capital enough to do that are the Dodgers and the Orioles. And the Orioles, most of their guys have already been called up. So to me, you're missing out on what could be one of the biggest hauls ever because of your pittiness. And that to me is stupid. And that's why I think that's why it's like, okay, even with the Yankees rumors, I was like, who are you gonna trade? Dominguez and Peraza. That's pretty much it. Or Bader, but again, that's just 3 players, and I don't know how much you can get with that. Like we said, even Talking Baseball had their points about you, like you said, with the Max Scherzer trade, how it would work. It's just not going to work, and I don't think Shohei gets traded, even if they are a game under 500. I don't see a world where they come out of this disillusion that they're making playoffs. And as much as a baseball fan as I want them to play playoffs, because it would be awesome to see Ohtani and Trout, hopefully knock on wood, he comes back healthy by the end of the season to make playoffs. But yes, they sweep the Yankees, sure, but look at the Yankees roster right now. Look at how they're playing. It's not like we just beat the Yankees. Yeah, it's just like we beat the Yankees. Okay, like I mean, you want to keep the momentum, but it's like there's not enough that's going right for this team besides Shohei Ohtani to keep momentum. And I think once they realize that, it's going to be too late and they've lost their chance.
Yeah, I was gonna make the same point. I mean, yeah, the Angels swept, and that's great for them. I mean, no matter who you sweep, a sweep is great. Good for team morale. Kind of gets you motivated, gets you ready to go. Even if you're going through a tough struggle, sweep is great. If they would have swept a contender right now, I mean, if we're talking, if they would have swept the Phillies, I mean, hell, if you would have swept the Marlins, maybe the Reds, the Brewers, the Diamondbacks, the Giants. Like if you would have swept one of those teams, that would have been a bigger. It would have had more to it. You could have said, okay, all right, maybe there's something to that, right? They swept the Yankees, who are in no way would they be considered one of the top teams in baseball right now. I wouldn't even put them in the top half if I'm being realistic. Um, it just the state of affairs right now. So on the one hand, yeah, again, great that they swept. On the other hand, I don't think that's really anything to say to them just yet. If they go the next 2 weeks and they, play 700, 800 baseball, okay, now we're having a different conversation. As of right now, I don't think that really changes the aspect of should the Angels be traders or not. I 100% think that they should be as of right now. What I do think that did for them is in this critical period of time where we have, about 2 weeks left of the trade deadline, getting your players to play at a heightened level, even if you are going to be traders, is great because you can kind of inflate their price, their worth, with that sort of recency bias that you have going on. So if you're going to be sellers and in the next 2 weeks you guys play incredible baseball and your big trade pieces are, popping off, they're cooking, then that's great. That is great for your franchise, because you can inflate their sort of worth and you can get them to do more for you than, let's say, they're hitting, 100 average with no home runs over the past 20 games. That would deflate their price, according to that, recency bias that you have going on. So you have Shohei Ohtani hitting a home run every other game, it being clutch. He got a triple. He's got doubles. I mean, it was
Almost hit
literally
a cycle in
the.
that first game against the Yankees.
It was literally like the Ohtani show. I mean, with a supporting cast of characters, but it was the Ohtani show, which is what you want from the Angels. I mean, you want to put on a show with that guy. I mean, that just inflates his price more, Michael.
Dude.
Like he's
He's
just
batting.
looking better.
He's going to break. He might have a genuine chance of breaking Judge's record from last year.
Yeah.
And you want to know what Judge said to that?
He
Records are
said
meant to be
good.
broken.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's great from the Angels standpoint. And from Artie Moreno, you have to look at it as two different kind of things, because I can only imagine, like, as a GM, you have this baseball fan base lover inside of you, and then you have this businessman inside of you. And I think more often than not, for GMs, you should have the business guy kind of overriding your baseball lover sense in there. As a baseball lover, as an Angels lover, as somebody who just loves the franchise, the Angels, you will not trade Ohtani to an in-state rival. You just won't. Okay, you're not going to trade him to the Dodgers. You're
To
probably
the
not going to trade him to the
Mariners, they're the
Padres.
division.
You definitely wouldn't trade him to the Mariners. I mean, they're not an in-state rival, but they're the
They're
Mariners. You're
they're
a
in
division rival.
Exactly.
I mean, arguably more important than your in-state rival, but that's, not as, neither here nor there. So obviously from that sort of standpoint, you wouldn't want to trade the best player to ever play baseball to a team that could annihilate you in the future. That being said, from a business standpoint, not trading Ohtani and not trading Ohtani to the Dodgers specifically is, like you put it, very, very stupid for multiple reasons. The biggest reason being the amount of prospect pool that they would get in return for Shohei Ohtani.
They would get our best prospect, Diego Cartaya, because we have another catcher in the Double-A, but no one needs to know about him.
From a business standpoint, it only makes sense to trade Shohei Ohtani. And for that matter, a couple of the other guys. I mean, Mickey Moniak has been
He's been great.
Sensational. He's been sensational.
Carlos Estevez, their other
I was
all-star.
just about to say, Carlos Estevez, man, that guy has been lights out at the back end of the
First year without
bullpen.
Coors Field. Might have, you never know.
I mean, there's not all downsides to look at to the Angels, right? But we've talked about this. The Angels have swung big and have whiffed every season for the past few seasons now. I mean, it's not like this is the first year where they swung big and they're like, man, it just didn't work. Like, it hasn't been working for quite a while now. So at some point you got to make that decision. Where do I cut my losses and start a rebuild? And maybe rebuild around Mickey Moniak and the rest of the young crew. I mean, that's cool. That's a great idea, but you can get a lot of trade pieces from some of these kids.
Get a lot of trade pieces. Hunter Renfroe, Rental.
I mean, you can. It's probably pretty close, but you could probably say that you would get the biggest haul a team. I don't think there's enough. I don't think, looking at the teams who are possible candidates of sellers, other than maybe the Cardinals, I can't look at a team and say that they could pull in more top prospects and MLB ready players than Shohei Ohtani alone. I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous the value that he has right now, and to let that value expire at the free agency point, to which he will not re-sign with the Angels. If we're being realistic, there's just no chance of
There's just no way.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who would make that mistake that Mike Trout made. I mean, literally for that alone, like, if you take out what happened to Mike Trout and being stuck on a team that just never makes playoffs, you take that out, maybe he resigns. Maybe. But You can't be on the same team as a dude who is a generational talent. We've been talking about him as one of the best baseball players, during our generation of baseball players that we're watching right now. And to see him locked away in a dungeon, never making playoffs,
It's so sad. It's
it's
just so sad.
depressing,
That
man.
quote and when they had the
Yeah,
Mookie
is
in,
this
this is
what
what the
playoff
playoffs
baseball's
feels like.
like?
That
That's
hurt
just
me.
so
That
sad.
hurt me.
And so Ohtani, looking at that, you got to be like, at some point, no matter how much you love that fan base, no matter how much you
You
love what
love the
they've done for
team.
you, which don't get me wrong, the Angels have played him, pretty much perfectly up to this point, getting every dollar that they can out of him, selling out stadiums literally just because he's starting pitching.
Dude,
Like that, great, good
my
for you
friend
guys.
went to the Ohtani Trout bobblehead, the duo bobblehead, and it was like hours of waiting in line.
Yeah, and with good reason. I mean, they're two of the best baseball players we've got in the game right now. I mean, it makes sense. With that being said, you have to trade him. Like you can't do what they did to Nolan Arenado. You know what I mean?
Or Trevor Story. That's
Or
just
Trevor like you just
don't be
can't
the
you can't do
Rockies.
that.
Don't be the Rockies.
You got to learn from people's mistakes. You got to learn from the mistake you made with Trout in signing him with a big contract with absolutely zero playoff aspirations. You can't do what the Rockies did and let people of value expire at the free agency period and then them not re-signing with you. I mean, you got to make it you, you got to trade him, okay? Like the only reason you don't trade him in this scenario is if not only you have like playoff intentions, but you have a deep run of playoffs in sight. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to make that last wild card spot.
Good.
I'm
What's
gonna
after
I'm
that?
gonna keep him around." What happens if you get swept in the wild card round? Okay, great. You made playoffs. High fives. Slap you on the back. Good job. Now what? Now it's free agency period, and you don't really have a realistic way of extending him because he wants to be on a team that's competitive.
Jacob, he had a
You
goal for
can't you
himself
can't say
when he
you
came
can't
to the.
say that you're going to be competitive. You just can't. You've said it before, and you haven't lived up to it. It's just unrealistic, man. I mean, I could go on talking about
Yeah.
hours with this, man. It's ridiculous, and the only reasonable business standpoint you can stand behind is trade Shohei Ohtani at the trade deadline. That's fine if you want to wait up till the very, very last second you
Second.
can. That's fine. Build up that trade potential. But one of the biggest things that they did to hurt themselves in this trade deadline talk is saying that they're not going to trade him to the Dodgers.
That was so stupid. That was literally the biggest bargaining chip because everyone knows, even Ben Verlander, who hates the Dodgers, admitted that he's probably gonna go up to the I-5 freeway and turn LA.
It's very it doesn't do anything for his trade value. If anything, makes it go down because every team can look at it and say, well, there's only one team left that has even close to the farm system that the Dodgers have, and it's the Orioles. And if he wants to go to a West Coast team, the Giants are now in contention. The Padres,
They said they're out. They
mm,
already said they're out of Ohtani.
yeah, I mean, I think that is the case. You never know in the world of baseball, but that's most realistic. I mean, again, the Seattle Mariners shouldn't be in contention for Shohei Ohtani because they're a division rival. But I mean, who knows? Because who can make an offer on Shohei Ohtani at this point that can rival what the Dodgers would have? And that's to assume that the Dodgers would have pursued Ohtani. I mean, I'm sure they would have for not his full value because trading for him, as I've said before, is not in the Dodgers' best interest. Their best interest is to sign him in free agency. It doesn't even make sense to sign him to
Yeah.
trade for him, knowing that they're going to extend him. It's just so much value that I don't think the Dodgers are going to get back in terms of return just for that half season. But just use them as a bargaining chip. Just say that the Dodgers are in it. That's all you need.
That's all
Boom.
you need. That's all you need.
That raises his value just right there. It's ridiculous. None of this whole fiasco has really made sense to me. I can't really make sense of it in any sort of thinking style, genuinely. But I'm not a GM, Michael, so who am I to say what's going on?
Good job, Angels. Ohtani wanted to win a World Series by 26. He's 29. So, good for you. Jacob, let's move over to one of the more exciting series of the week and more exciting series for us, obviously. Dodgers O's, Jacob. Ooh, what a series that was. Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from the O's, which I was really surprised because the O's have been hot. They had won 8 in a row before that. But they had a really decent series. CT3 in the clutch, dude. He's been waiting for his moment. He's back. I want to apologize to Austin Barnes, who would have had his first homer of the year in any other ballpark and that ballpark if it was 2021, but the Orioles moved the wall back. So I deeply apologize to that. Congrats to James Outman though for hitting a lefty, the first lefty ever to hit an oppo bomb over that wall. Okay. But yeah, man, the Dodgers, they're doing it. I mean, Sheehan has come down to earth a little bit, but he's been doing it. Jason Hayward had a big bomb. It's just the team this team has finally clicked. Going into the second half, Dave Roberts said this team hasn't played their best ball yet. And that's true. That's completely true. But now they're doing it. The bullpen has had this bullpen has been the best since June 20th, and that's saying with all the crap we've talked about personally on camera, off camera, and everyone's talked about how the pitching this year has been awful. But they're finally finding it, and that's what we love to see. Vessi is back. Almonte's been good. It's just been great for all of them. Grove had a very nice start. Michael Grove is great as a depth piece in this series. The one bad side really for the Dodgers is Julio, man. Julio and Sandy Alcantara, the 2 of the top 3 finalists for Cy Young last year. Max Fried is injured, so he doesn't really count. They've been some of the worst pitchers in baseball last year. Granted, this year, Julio has been injured for a while, but still, he's a 5+ year, right? It's wild to me. So it sucks to me. I'm wearing the Julio jersey right now. It's just Julio, he needs to find it. He said vacation is over when he had that amazing one hit gem in New York and vacation. He put on those glasses back on those sunglasses because vacation restarted really quickly in Baltimore for him. It's not a good series for him. The O's bats they're finding it a little bit. And they make their first trade, Jacob, for Shintaro Fujinami, which I thought was an interesting trade because he had been one of the worst pitchers according to the overall stats. But in his last 15 games, a 2.70 ERA, he's been better since they moved him to the bullpen, and pitching is what they need. So, Jacob, thoughts on this series from you? Any concerns that you do have for Julio, and maybe potential trades for this Dodgers team? I don't know.
Well, as we know, Julio's going to hit free agency. I've always thought that is a possibility of trading him. In terms of franchise worth, I don't think it's going to happen. And if there's anything I'm asking of Andrew Friedman, it's to sign Julio to a long-term deal because of what he means to this franchise. And I'm not even just talking about like clubhouse stats wise. I'm just talking about from a fan base
He
standpoint.
is a fan favorite.
He is I mean somebody that everybody looks forward to starting a game. I mean alongside Kershaw, and you can argue Walker Bueller other than the fact that he's been injured the past while now. He's
Hey,
another
he
fan
reached
favorite.
94. He's reaching 94.
I did see that he was getting healthier and he was throwing BP, well not BP but in the
He was
cages,
throwing
which was
bullpens,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Um I mean, again, you could look at it from two different ways, right? You could look at it from a franchise lover, Dodgers bleed blue, that kind of person, or you could look at it from a business
Business
standpoint.
standpoint.
From a business standpoint, it still is kind of questionable. It's up in the air because how much of value can he add to your playoff run? Because obviously the Dodgers are in playoff contention and
And he's
and
struggling.
always have sights on a deep playoff run. He's obviously struggling, but to what extent do you say his struggles are? I wouldn't say
Long term.
motivated, but like yeah, like how much stock do you take that he's going to be struggling the rest of the season and into playoffs?
I
He's a
think
big he's a bright lights type of player. I mean he doesn't like playing it like if it was Baltimore back like 3, 4 seasons ago where there would have been 500 people in the stands, a game like this where he gets absolutely hammered. I mean, it wouldn't be that outlandish because he's not in those big bright lights where there's 60,000 fans looking down at you chanting, your name. It's more of like, that Sunday baseball league that you play in when you're going on 35,
Sunday
and
League.
you had aspirations for the big leagues, but those got passed up when you were 5 years deep in the minors and couldn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like it's it's a different type of baseball when you're playing playoff baseball versus
Regular season
regular season
baseball.
baseball. I mean, even regular season baseball when you're not like contention worthy of playoffs versus you're in a playoff race and you're like 2 wins behind the leading team. Um, and so how much of that do you take into account when you think of his struggles? How much of that do you take into account where you think of his trade value? You know, when you're looking at teams and you're fielding trade offers and saying, okay, I will trade you Shohei Ohtani for Julio Urias and maybe two big prospects and maybe a third, you know, low level prospect. Where does that value come into play? And I think the biggest thing you have to take into account is if you're on the edge, I think you have to come back to, can he make a difference in the playoffs? And
Absolutely.
I just keep thinking like that photo of Urias throwing that last strike of the World Series in 2020
Dude, that was
and
just
like him turning around and like just crying to the skies like so passionately, that is ingrained in my brain
yeah.
forever, and just should go to show you how much grit he's got and um how much like pride he's got to be on the Dodgers and how much he's willing to work hard to be on this team and be a starting piece. Not only a starting piece, but be the ace that we've known him to be for the past 2 years. I would bet on him. I
Yeah.
wouldn't trade him at
I
the
went to
deadline. I would bet on him.
I went to La Gran Fiesta last year with like the last like Viva Los Dodgers that they do every Sunday, and he came out with like Trey Turner and like a bunch of other guys. But he came out and he was talking. And he's like, I love this team. I feel bad for the fans. Like sometimes they'll be like, oh Julio, and I had to say something, but like that's just the mindset that I'm in. Like I'm here to win and help this team win. And I mean obviously as from a Dodger fan standpoint, I hate to see him struggle because he's one of my favorite players. From a business standpoint, that lowers his value, Jacob, which gives the Dodgers more reasonable contract. And granted, I would give him all the money I would want, but again, from a business standpoint, that lowers his value to where you can also go and chase some other players. So, but from a business standpoint, it's kind of good for the Dodgers from a just purely again fan base standpoint. You hate to see it, and you hope that he finds it. And of course, the second half numbers for Julio into his entire career have always been better than the first half. So we'll see where that takes him. But yeah, the Dodgers they're rolling it, they're finding it, man, and I'm glad to see that they're taking form. More and more rumors
I
I have.
Real quick, just I know we talked about the trade pieces specifically for the Dodgers, but I mean this Dodgers team right now, they're kind of rolling. It's not perfect. Obviously, they've got some holes here. I think Friedman's probably going to chase some trade prospects. We've known him to trade some big pieces in the past, and I do think they are very, very likely going to target a starting pitcher and a high end
Reliever.
back of the bullpen arm. I think they're going to either target a stopper or a closer and move Evan Phillips to the stopper position. And I think they're going to target a reliever that they can rely on for more innings, better health, and some pitch depth for the playoffs. Because right now, I mean, that's what some of these teams are looking at.
Yeah.
What sort of additions can we make for our playoff run? One of them has to be a starting pitching arm. Now, I say that with bated breath because I don't personally believe that we need a starting pitcher that desperately. But looking at kind of how the things have gone, dealing with the injuries, Dustin May's out for the rest of the season and possibly the beginning of next season. Walker Bueller possibly coming back towards the end. It's looking better, but how much can
Much
we count on
can
him
we
when he
count
comes
on him?
back? Urias really struggling. If he was absolutely dominant right now, this might be a different conversation, but he's really having a tough go of it. And with the likes of Michael Grove, Bobby Miller, and Sheehan, these guys, they've looked promising at some points. They've looked like they've kind of got rocked at some other points. So really, question is like, what what does Friedman see going into the playoff picture? How many arms can he count on going into that playoff picture? And I don't think he sees enough arms that he can count on to reasonably not go after a starter. But we will see.
They apparently, according to insiders, they've checked in on the White Sox, of course, as a deal that we've been able to talk about a little bit with Lucas Giolito and reportedly other players in that bullpen that we have yet to be disclosed. But hey, man, bring Hendricks Fire to LA. If that would ever happen, that'd be kind of awesome. I know his contract's kind of expensive, but I don't know. We'll to see. The Cardinals are not getting traded to the Dodgers. I don't think so. I think the Cardinals. I mean, they're playing good baseball right now, but I just don't think in any world Arenado's getting traded. Maybe another trade for a starter like Jordan Montgomery, but again, we'll see. On the Orioles side of this series, Jacob, not a lot to talk about. I mean, they kind of struggled, but the offense is here. They're currently winning 3-1 against Tampa Bay in the what is it, the fifth inning or the sixth inning? Sixth inning, my bad. In Tampa Bay, which is obviously good for them. But yeah, any thoughts on the Orioles, Jacob? That we need to really any concerns? I mean, they're a good team. What can you say?
They they are. They're a good team. They're a well put together team. They're young. They're fun. Um they're gritty. Man, they grind. They're grinders. Um, it was tough to watch the series because I feel like the Orioles were kind of the better team in the majority of that series. Even you look at game two, you kind of pulled it out with the
That
likes
was
of Chris Taylor's bomb.
really
Um,
close game.
it was even it being 6-4. I mean, you can credit that to one swing of the bat turning the tides of that game. Not to say the Dodgers didn't deserve that win because I think they fought back pretty hard too. But the O's definitely put up some fights. That last game of the series really kind of showed what kind of team they are, and to go down uh 1-2 against the second best NL team um in the league right now, I would say is pretty good and pretty much in their favor. They looked great. Their two pieces at the back end of the bullpen looked
Dude, I
unreal.
was I kept saying that we're to my family when we were watching, and I was like, we need to win by the seventh inning, and
Yeah,
they're like, why?
100%.
I was like, you're gonna see if we're not winning
You
by the
don't
seventh
you
inning.
don't want to see those two guys, man. They are devastating, man. I think Yanir Cano's got like a 1.8 ERA, and Felix Batista's got like a 1.2, or it might even be lower. It's ridiculous. That dude is 6'8".
Dude, that
He
that was
his
crazy.
nickname's the Mountain
The
for a
mountain,
reason. I mean, that dude is a behemoth, man.
the
Like
exact
just
stats.
go ahead.
Felix Bautista has a 1 ERA on the dot and a .89 WHIP with 88 strikeouts. And where is he? Where is Cano? Yunior Cano, 1.58 ERA, 40 strikeouts and a .92 WHIP.
I mean, I gotta be honest. I never really heard of these two guys before this year, and that's kind of what I got the feeling from when listening to the Dodgers cast. They were talking about how Yunier Cano was really an underrated piece, and fans were kind of outraged at the
Some
signing or
fans,
trading
yeah,
of him
because they
because
traded away Jorge Lopez. They were only All
who
Star
is
last
this
year.
guy? Who is this guy? Why did we go for this guy? But man, is he paying out in spades? Like it it was a spectacle to watch. Obviously, I didn't like to watch it as a Dodgers fan, but to see them come out and spin their stuff, they've got nasty stuff, man.
Yeah,
Batista's got a 101 fastball and a power devastating sinker that just just
it's insane.
buries,
It's
man.
insane.
Oh man, it's nasty stuff. So the O's, man, they're in a good position to I I kind of want to be honest, I think they're gonna win the division.
I
Like,
agree. There's no signs pointing that they won't.
I mean, they've had their struggles in there. They've had several series long of droughts, and that's okay. That's what you're gonna get from baseball teams in general, but especially young teams.
Jacob, the
That's
last
what we
time
come to
they were
expect.
swept was when Adley was called up.
A long, long time ago, Michael. I think it was like 50 series that they
Yeah,
haven't
70,
been swept in.
70, I think,
Oh
actually.
my God, that's even more ridiculous. Yeah, no, it's and kudos to them, man. They've been one of the most exciting teams to watch in the past 2 years, and I am so on board to see the Orioles be a competitive team again. I think their ballpark is beautiful. I think their fan base is great. I think their team is young and fun. You know, it's great to watch. So I think looking at that series, like as an Orioles fan, as tough as it might be to stomach two losses in a series, to the Dodgers, I think that's one of like maybe 4 or 5 teams you could look at if you're losing 2-1 in a series.
They take it as a
You
win.
take that as a win. And especially because those losses weren't like horrific
Like,
losses.
yeah.
Like they were competitive for the most part in both of those games that they lost.
Even the 10-3 loss,
So
they had bases loaded multiple times. They just didn't come up.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so it's really promising from them, and I think that only builds their value right now in the trade game. They're gonna go out and they can make some moves. Now, how much of the prospect pool are they
That's the
willing
thing.
to give up to chase a deep playoff run? I don't know. If I'm being honest, I don't think you want to tap into that too much because that's been your
That's the
bread and butter
future.
so
That's
far.
their future. That's how they win games.
That's what they've been doing so far. We've seen them call up a bunch of newbies, and we're sitting here like, okay, yeah, but what now? And they've been showing us what now. They put a couple of veterans in there, and boom, you got a solid, well put together team. So, do I think they're going to spend all their trade candidates at this deadline to make a serious playoff push, World Series contention? No, I don't. But do I think they could really use another starting pitcher?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably be nice. I mean, Shintaro, I believe his name is
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
That's the guy who got traded. Um, he's a great piece. I think would be a great piece for their bullpen. Long reliever, slot him in as kind of that sixth man going into the playoffs. You could just have him pick
He has
up where
nasty
somebody's leading
stuff.
off.
100 plus
Oh,
fastball.
absolutely, 100%. And he's somebody great to build up in the future. You know, if you're not gonna use him heavy this season, sign him to an extension and look at him long term. Like that's he's a great piece to look at. Right now, they can really use a starting veteran
I agree.
that knows the game, that can dominate, that can really go out there and just shove and do that on a consistent basis. They could really use that guy to like anchor this starting rotation. If they have that guy, man, they are a full team. Really no holes. I mean, their bullpen is pretty great. It's not perfect, but with those two at the end, with Yanir Cano and Felix Bautista, I mean that's really all you need. If you've got a starting pitcher that'll give you 6 solid innings, you need 1 inning in between those the starting and the finish end of your bullpen to kind of hold you over. And the other games you can kind of just rely on your offense, which has been pretty great up to this point. So good, pretty much no bad things to say about the Orioles in
Oh
this
yeah,
past series. It was really great to watch them. Really fun.
they are an amazing team, man. Let's go to one of my actually underrated series. Not underrated because this series was just highlights all around. Jacob, the Diamondbacks versus the Braves. Diamondbacks take a very, very important series as they were struggling. They had fallen to third place. I think they're tied or are in second place with the Giants now. Let me check the exact stats on that. Yeah, they are tied with the Giants right now, 2 games back, 54 and 43. And they I didn't read the standings, but basically, yeah, Dodgers in first place, obviously. And then Arizona, Giants, Padres, Rockies. Then in the East, Braves, Phillies, Marlins in third, Mets, Nationals, and then Brewers, Reds, Cubs, Cardinals in fourth place with the Pirates in fourth. Ooh, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I mean the Diamondbacks, I'm pretty sure that was the game of the year. They went 16-13 in that first game. Highlights all around. Walker hit 2 home runs. Austin Riley hit 2 home runs.
Mexico City, who?
Yeah, yeah. There
I
is
mean, fireworks in that game, and they are not nearly as high as Colorado or Mexico City. That's ridiculous.
that day 12 teams scored 10 plus runs, and that's the most in like since like 80 or something years, which honestly good for baseball.
Dude, I mean, like I said, like you can rag on Manfred all you want. He literally did exactly what he set out to do. He wanted to make baseball more exciting, get fans to tune in for more period of time, but less length of games themselves. And he did exactly that so far, man. Up offense is up, length of games are down. you get dazzling plays from playmakers like the middle infielders. You have people like Ellie De La Cruz stealing second, third, home. I mean, I again, commissioners are always going to be hated. That's just the life of their job. I mean, it's like umpires. There's nothing you can do that will make everybody love you. You're going to be hated by one party or both parties. Um, and for Manfred to have a plan to go out there and go through with
Execute
that
it.
plan and to execute it to such a degree. I mean, it's literally near perfect what he set out to do and what he's accomplished so far is great for baseball. And you can have a bunch of old white men saying yada yada yada. I want my old baseball game back where we used to truck second basemen at second place between a double play, and where we used to throw behind pitchers with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball because we got upset at them for looking at a home run too long. Bye bye old era of baseball. Get that shit out of
Yeah.
here. The new era of baseball is better, it's faster, it's more exciting, it's safer. I mean, it's got more fans. Like everything about baseball is trending upwards, and I think that's so great about baseball. And to see that go international with the international games we have planned next year,
Dominican
beginning the
Republic,
Dodgers
us in
in
Korea.
dude, that is just awesome. And Ah Kim, if I
Oh, that's
pray
gonna be
he's still on the
awesome.
Padres,
Yeah.
because that's going to be such an incredible, wholesome environment for Ha Kim to be accepted to the Padres fan base as one of the fan favorites and to go to Korea where he's probably like I can't tell you how many fans from Korea like watch Major League Baseball, but I can only imagine the fans that do
Watch
keep
Hasan Kim.
track of players like Ha Kim. Absolutely. And so to see that, like that is going to be such an incredible atmosphere. I cannot wait to watch that on television. I'm so excited for that series. Seriously, like so deeply excited for that series. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
wait
gonna be
to
fun.
see that baseball's really trying to make an impact worldwide and get fans from all over the world to tune into MLB specifically. That only spells good things for MLB, for the World Baseball Classic that we're going to have more fans and more fans. Like this past year with the World Baseball Classic was
Dude, that was so
so
awesome.
exciting.
I
It was
love that.
so
I
incredible
went to a game.
to
I
see
yeah.
MLB players to see MLB players in there made it just 10 times better, dude. To see the best of the best play in the sport just made it so
To
exciting,
have
man.
Mike Trout
I
finally feeling what playoffs feels like.
so good, man. So good. Great for television, great for MLB, great for WBC. I mean, you name it, dude. What Manfred has done for this sport has been incredible, nothing short of incredible. Sure, he's done some things that maybe not everybody agrees with. I know people don't like the pitch clock. Whatever. You can say whatever you want about
People
it.
don't like some
He has made a plan.
players he gives some immunity to.
Whatever. Look, I can make my amends with that, dude. He has been incredible for the game of baseball, and I'm so happy with where baseball has come to and what it's been made for, and it's just been so great to watch baseball progress in these last few years. It's been
I have to agree with you, and it sucks because obviously Dodgers fans. I mean, I have a bias towards Rob Manfred, how the way I feel against him, but sure, he's been really great this year, and the stats prove it. But yeah, man, the stats also prove it with this series, man. I mean, did you see that clip of Corbin Carroll striking out, and then on a couple errors makes it to third base? What? That was just wild to me. That's how awesome he is. But the Diamondbacks, man, they were falling a little bit. They were faltering. And honestly, as a baseball fan, so glad to see them as they're such an exciting team. They might make some moves at the deadline. But and the Braves, dude, I mean, I don't really have worries for them. They're gonna make playoffs. They're gonna be there. They're one of the greatest teams in the league. But this might be a Yankees-esque way of ending the year. That like last year, how they were 10 games up on the Phillies right now. But they've lost two straight series, Jacob. I know maybe some All-Star break fatigue, but first to lose a series to the White Sox, ew, that's not what you want to see. Wait, did they lose the series to the White Sox? I am not 100% sure. I might be getting all this all wrong. Let me make sure. They. Let me see. I think the White Sox did win the series. The White Sox won that series, just making sure. But yeah, um, the Braves, man, they're doing it. They have guys who are there, and they're just gonna be there. They're such an electric team, man. Ronald Acuna is gonna steal possibly 70, 80 bags. Matt Olson is having a record-breaking year. There's so much going right for this team. Ozzy Albies has 22 home runs and 824 OPS. This team is just it's what the Braves are. It's if you ask what the Braves are, they're a monster. On all standpoints, because that's just what they are. They've been amazing. They're doing this, by the way, Jacob, without Max Fried or Kyle Wright, who won 20 games last year. Spencer Strider is literally him. This team's relentless, man. The Diamondbacks are relentless too for getting that series. Any thoughts on this series from you?
Well, first, I want to pose a question to you that I actually posed to my father the other day. I want you to think of the three most dominant teams in all of baseball the past 8 years or so. Who would you say is the three
Eight
most dominant
years?
teams over the past 8 years, like without maybe 100% like stats backing you up, just like the feel of paying attention to baseball the past like 8 years or so. Who do you think, in your opinion, would be in the conversation for the top three teams in baseball those past 8 years?
I mean, it would have to be the Braves, the Dodgers, as two of them. And I want to say one AL team, but I can't really say an AL team for sure. I mean, I guess I'll say Astros. I say Astros, Dodgers, Braves.
That's exactly who I would think, who I would say has been the top three teams of baseball in the past 8 years. And that's exactly what my father said. Um, I mean, when you think of dominant teams in this recent decade of baseball, you think Braves. And it's kind of crazy because at the beginning of every season, we go
They
through this and we're
struggle a
like,
little bit where there's a little lag, and it's like,
I
what's
mean,
happening?
even like further before, like before the season starts, you look at them on paper and you're like, okay, you got a pretty well put together team, but you don't think that you have the top of the division. And then every year they
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 do.
struggle, they struggle, but they're fighting and they're fighting and they're fighting to the end. Um, and then they take it. I mean, last year they were fighting with the Mets right up
And then
until
to
the end
the
of it.
last series, and where they swept the
Right up
Mets.
until the end.
This team is just the way this organization is so well run. I mean, Andrew Friedman is up there with top GMs, but I think Alex Anthopoulos has him, dude, because the way they've been able to keep players. Ozzy Albies is the longest tenured Brave on this team. Think about that, and I'm pretty sure he's 26 years old. And they all have these guys locked up. Sean Murphy, 8 years. Acuna for a bit. All of these guys. Strider, 8 years. Bryce Elder, who's probably going to get a payday at the end of the season because he was an all-star and is putting up a 3.31 ERA right now. This team is just amazing. All around.
Here's your only argument to that. And I don't even mean it as like a pure like argument devil's advocate, but like if you are Bryce Elder, if you look at what's happened to some of these guys like Acuna Jr., um, you got you got Ozzy Albies, you've got these guys signed for long-term contracts with maybe not the highest AAV that they could possibly get. Now, you as a young enthusiastic baseball player, you can do one of two things. You can either A, sign a long-term contract as you're young, probably not for the highest AAV, but what you are doing is you're cementing a
Your value.
strong income for quite a long time.
That's why I was really surprised Corbin Carroll. I mean, that's not Braves, but Corbin Carroll signing that 8-year deal. I was like, really? Especially after the year he's putting up.
The only caveat to that is if you are someone like Ronald Acuna Jr., who comes out and just puts up sensational numbers, you're performing a little bit above what maybe your salary says your value is. Now, is that good for baseball? Is that not good for baseball? I'm going to side that what the Braves have been able to do so far is great for baseball because I've always thought that baseball players are paid way too much, at least the top of the top. Obviously, not the bottom of the bottom. They're not paid enough. But aside from that, the top of the top get way too much money. I mean, just outrageous amounts of money. And what the Braves have been able to do is they've been able to look at a guy and say, you know what, I not only see value in you, but I believe you're going to be a value for a long time
For
to
the
come.
rest, yeah.
So I'm going to sign you to a 9, 10, 11-year deal that maybe isn't so high IAV, but I'm betting on you. That's what this Brave GM is doing. That's what he's doing is he's betting on these young guys. He sees them for a season or two and says, "Look, I see what you're doing. I believe that we can have a cohesive environment where you can do this for years to come. And I'm gonna bet, I'm gonna put money saying that you're gonna do exactly that, if not better, over the next 8,
Orlando
9, 10,
Arcia,
11 years.
their backup shortstop for the past couple years behind Dansby Swanson, was an all-star this year, and they give him a 3-year contract extension because they bet on him.
Absolutely, man. And guess what? It's been paying off, man. You can't look at one of those contracts and say that they've been a huge swing and a miss. Like
Yes, man.
they're at bare minimum doing what they've been signed to do. If not, they're doing things
More.
like Austin Riley and Matt Olson and Ronald Acuna Jr., where they're just sensational and overperforming what they're being paid for. I mean, so as you know, if you're Bryce Elder, you could look at it one of two ways. You could look at it and say, "Wow, I want to be like these guys." I may go down the line and be like a Cy Young caliber pitcher, but if that means I can lock up a a strong income for me and my family, or my family to come in the future for the next 12 years, if I can lock that up right now, shoot, who cares? Because what happens if I don't sign that contract
Exactly.
and then I perform like crap? Then you're just lowering your value to the point where you're going to get a smaller contract or a smaller length of contract. I mean, it's just it's almost like they're using some sort of mind control to make this all work, because it feels like it shouldn't work the way that they're making it work. Like you look across all of baseball, nobody comes close to what the Braves have been able to
Oh,
put together
absolutely not.
in terms of young talent, turning them into long-term stars, and contracts that are like reasonable AAV that they can keep up with, and not make them skyrocket like the Mets AAV and the Yankees AAV and the Padres
Yes.
AAV, and to have better teams than all of those. Like, it's insane. It's ridiculous what they've been able to do. So, like,
Good job, Braves.
I don't
You're
know.
there every year.
I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing it right. And so, like, when it comes to the trade deadline, why would you do anything? Like, why would you go and swing big right now when everything is
It's
working
working.
exactly to plan? I don't even know what holes they would need to fill. Maybe the bullpen a
Oh,
little
yeah, I
bit.
would say bullpen,
Maybe
if anything.
maybe get a halfway decent bullpen arm to add to that. But I mean, even still, their starting pitchers, it's working.
It's
It's
working.
not the exact starting pitching rotation that they thought they would be at the beginning of the season, but they're doing their thing. They're making it work.
Don't
Spencer
fix what ain't
Strider's
broke.
coming out. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said last week, don't touch the Braves. Peace out.
Peace out.
Next question.
Yeah, man, they're doing it, and good for the Diamondbacks to be able to tee up, and that really shows them go that they're for real. They're not trying to back down. Yes, we might have our struggles here and here, but they're here, man, and they're doing it. So good for them. Obviously we're not probably gonna get to every series this week, but not a lot of the greatest series. So we're gonna do some highlights real quick. Tigers Royals. Tigers beat the Royals, man. Yeah, good for you. They might have a shot at making some trades. Michael Lorenzen has people were questioning his all-star because he had a 4+ ERA, and they were like, what, of all people on this team, why would you do it when there's better arms? He's had a 21 scoreless inning streak, so good for him. But yeah, man, the Tigers, dude, could you imagine if they actually had a way to make it to the first place for Miggy, for, you know what, win for Miggy? That's gonna be my motto for this year. I'm gonna be the Tigers representative on this podcast here. Guardians Pirates. The Guardians took 2 out of 3 from the Pirates. It was kind of a mid-fist. Bieber's most likely not getting traded, but the Guardians, they're keeping up with what they need to. They're beating teams that they need to. Pirates have just been horrendous as they fall into 5th place and need to trade everybody, even if it is a fan favorite, like I hate to say it, Andrew McCutchen. Cubs Nats. Cubs had a really great series against the Nationals. But even with that, they are basically admitted that Stroman and Bellinger are on the move, which sucks as a Cubs fan with the way and the expectations they have for them this year. But they're gonna get some pretty nice packages for them. Look at Bellinger's stats: 300 plus average, 800 plus OPS. I wouldn't mind the Stroman Bellinger package back to LA, but I'll call Andrew Friedman on my off time and see what he's up to there in the front office. Cardinals Marlins. I thought this was gonna be a midfist on the Cardinals part. Jacob, the Marlins have lost 6 in a row coming out of the break and are now tied for 2nd place. And actually, if you go to the wild card standings, are out of it, Jacob, because the Phillies hold the tiebreaker, which is wild.
Yeah, and if you look at it, they've been 2-8 in their last 10, with a losing streak of 6. So, it's been tough out there for the Marlins, to say the least. But
Yeah.
you know,
We didn't expect this playoff format to change much, and I think it's really going to come down to these 4 teams: the Diamondbacks, Giants, Phillies, and maybe even the Reds. But we're gonna see, man. We're gonna see how that ends up. But Cardinals, hey, they're not in 5th place anymore. I think I have to give you claps for that. Hey, Jacob, they're hot. Are they gonna make playoffs,
yeah.
Jacob? Are they gonna make playoffs?
Look, man, they're ahead of the Pirates, who, granted, the Cardinals have gone 8-2 in their last 10. The Pirates have gone 2-8 in their last 10. So, and they're only a game above the Pirates. They're one bad series away from last place again. So I don't think we're completely out of the woods on this. Cardinals not in last place yet, but we'll see if that train leaves the station for good or not.
Rockies Astros. The Rockies and Astros split a 2-game set in Coors. Jordan Alvarez is beginning a rehab assignment, which can only mean good things for them. They're looking into training for Dylan Cease. Chas McCormick for them has been really solid. I'm gonna try to get his stats up right now over the past couple weeks, and surprisingly so, because I didn't think this guy would be anything. I saw him in the World Series, like, who is this guy? And over his last 7 games, Jacob, he is slugging 1,000. Not the OPS, slugging 1,000. And that's just what the Astros do. They are on that kind of level with the Braves. Not really the level that the Braves are on, but they've been able to develop these guys and keep them. Look at the Jordan Alvarez contract. I just want to talk about a quote real quick from the Rockies. Their manager recently said that Colorado could be more active on this trade deadline, but not in the sense of being sellers, because they want to have a better second half of 2023. Jacob, they want to buy, and they're in 5th place. Do you have thoughts on that? really quickly.
I mean, we've always been baffled by the moves that the Rockies make, and if they are buyers at this trade deadline, that would only cement the fact that on they might be on the crazy train, to say the least. There's no sense in buying this. I know I saw somewhere that they were that their GM was talking about going in on this Ohtani frenzy.
Don't even say that.
I saw it.
Oh.
I genuinely saw it somewhere where it was like an email that the GM sent to the people that he works with, and he's like, "Well, Tawny's on the market. What if we get him and have a fun summer?"
Ohtani would hit 80
What?
homers. Hey, get Ohtani to 80
You know
homers.
what? That is the one good thing that would come from that is he would probably hit 80 homers, in Colorado, which would be whatever. I mean, what of it? The only good thing that can come from the Rockies buying at the trade deadline, and I mean buying. I don't mean like trading for one piece and like, okay,
Like
whatever. If
retooling
they
like the Red Sox
actually
last
like
year.
if they actually like are buyers at the trade deadline, the only good thing that could come from this would be to make the Padres 5th place again. And that would be great from my point of view. Maybe not from everybody's point of view, but hey, that'd be funny.
Yeah.
But there's no sense there. That
The
doesn't
quotes and the way
track
this
with any
organization
sort of.
has been run has been awful. They could have had
Hey,
DJ LeMahieu, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, and Chris Bryant in their primes at the same time.
And they didn't. And
And they did it.
not only did they not, they didn't get anything in return. Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
You had, I mean, you you look at Arenado, okay, and he is by far, and I mean by far. Well, okay, maybe not by far, but I would argue that he is the best third baseman of this like
Oh,
generation
absolutely,
now.
absolutely.
And I know Manny Machado's there, and I know like he is right there with Arenado, but in my opinion, Arenado's been better defensively and has shown that he could be more consistent than Machado has been in the past. Now, has he been? Not necessarily, but in terms of defense, I mean, his platinum glove goes to show you that he is by far the best defensive third baseman. I mean, Machado's maybe a little bit flashier, but in terms of consistent, incredible
Yeah,
defense, I think Arenado's got him.
Arenado.
And to have that guy performing in Colorado, which is a hard place to play defense, let alone just perform at a high level at all, and to get nothing from him is just astounding. It's not like they had a huge shot at the World Series and they just blew it. They were not big contenders for that for a World Series there.
They could
Even
have
if they
built,
were to make the
they could have
playoffs.
built up so much with 2 trades,
And
just 2.
I mean, and aside from that, you don't trade him. You would think the intention is to extend him. You just let him go. Like it doesn't make any sense. And really, honestly, not a lot of things have made sense with the Rockies. Um,
Not a lot of things.
I'll be honest, not much from my viewpoint has made sense with the Rockies and their moves and their trades and or lack of trades in the past. So
Yeah.
if you're asking me, will they be buyers? The past may say yes, Michael. They might be buyers. Will it make sense? Should they be buyers? Absolutely not. But
Absolutely not.
I mean, here we are talking about the
The
Rockies being
Rockies
buyers
buy.
in 2023.
Yeah. I really hope the Rockies, they need some hope soon. But you know who does need some hope, Jacob? The Texas Rangers, who just swept the Tampa Bay Rays. And the Tampa Bay Rays, dude, they are kind of falling. Not to say they're falling, but they're faltering a little bit. I mean, what are they? They are in their last 10. They're 3-7 in their last 10, Jacob. They've lost 4 in a row. They're currently tied in the 8th inning against the Orioles, but still, man, they've had such a. It's like we said, it's like earlier in the year, like they won this division. It's about how hard they started. Like I don't think we ever dreamed of how with where they were at that a team would be able to catch up to them, and they have, dude. And it's not like things are going bad for them. They're just not playing the way they used to be. They're playing like the Rays that I think everybody expected to be good, but not to be great. And I think that's what most guys expected. And it's not doing it, man. They're just not. They're going through a bit of a slump. Are they going to break out of it? More likely than not, yeah. Are they going to make playoffs? More likely than not, yeah. Um, but you mean you can't help but just worry for this team a little bit. I mean, Jose Siri's been having a great year. Randy Rosarena obviously doing amazing things. Isaac Paredes, my Mexican stud, he's doing great. Luke Raley, former Dodger, has a 917 OPS. Cause why not? Cause that's what they do. Um, but yeah, man, the Rays they are not on their 100% right now, which could hurt them, especially looming into a deadline where they want to make some moves. I've heard a lot of rumors that they might even be a wild card in the Shohei race, which could be insane. Imagine if they got Shohei and Randy hitting back-to-back bombs at the chop. We might be able to see that. But Jacob, before we get to our overall thoughts on the Ranger side, because I think the Rays side speaks for itself. They've been struggling and they're probably gonna get over it. I want to give a shout out, not a shout out, sorry, to an apology to Pete Fairbanks. I don't know if you saw in his post-game interview, but when they were talking to him, he said that a fan coming off the field told him that he wouldn't care. A Braves fan, by the way, wouldn't care if he drank bleach. which is an awful, awful look for Rays fans. And just he was texting his wife during that. I mean, fans suck, obviously, and especially when you can be struggling. And for this to be from a fan where you're still in first place, when you're still tied for first place, and are still gonna make the playoffs. Like if this was the Rockies or the A's, I would understand the anger out of that. But really, come on, dude, you're in first place still. Like you're going to make the playoffs. That just sucks for everybody involved. Like be better, fans. My apologies, our apologies on that. And again, to one of the better relievers in the game. So yeah, it sucks from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, you never wanna see that. I mean, I've been upset at players, but never once have I thought, go die, much less actually say it out loud. Like that's just, I mean, that's just utterly ridiculous. On behalf of fans of baseball, actual baseball fans, we don't want to see that. We don't want to see fans that do that. It's one thing to like want your team to be better and want your guys to be playing at the caliber that they should be. It's 100% another thing if you say something of that caliber. That is beyond egregiously horrendous. Like that shouldn't be something that you should even think is okay to say. And for you to think that that's okay to say is just it's ridiculous to me. I again, I don't even think that stuff, much less would even think to say something like that. Um, e- e- Even still in earshot of the actual player. Um, I understand the anger and frustrations of your team not performing the way that they should be. We've we've seen the Dodgers underperform in long stretches of time where it's just bad. I mean, just bad. Look at the bullpen
Look at
the
early June. Look at early
entire
June.
beginning of the season. I mean, just horrifically bad. Uh, I mean, you had Dodger fans coming in with their pitchforks for Alex Vesia's head.
Oh, poor Bessie,
But
dude.
that's just not okay. And internet trolls are going to be there forever. That's nothing you're ever going to get away from, no matter who you are. If you are in any sort of spotlight, you're going to get internet trolls that just troll you and say the worst, most heinous things you're ever going to hear online. That's just a fact. But in person, in your stadium, in other baseball stadiums, to hear fans like that, I think genuinely, I think they should be kicked out for life. I don't think you should be. I don't think you
Yeah.
should allow somebody to buy tickets to go into your stadium if they're going to say if they're going to even think that that's an okay thing to say to players.
It's just
That
ruining the
is
experience for everyone. I mean, I understand it's after the game, but come on, man.
this is their job. This is their livelihood. Like they're not out there pitching like shit because they want to pitch like shit. They're not doing that because they want to get back at you specifically. Not their team, not the rest of the fan
Not the
base, but
fans.
you literally just you. They're they're going through it, man. For whatever that may be. If they're going through some personal stuff, if they've got some psychological stuff going on in their head, maybe they just had an off game. Like there's so many different reasons why they could be pitching bad for you to go out there and say something like that. That's disgusting. And I really hope that we can get far away from that sort of toxicity. It's not good for the game. It's not good for other fans to hear. Like imagine, some kids listening to that and then laughing because they think it's funny. Like that's disgusting, man. That's not okay. It's ridiculous, man. I don't like hearing stories about that, so I can't even imagine what I would have said to that person if I heard that in person. It's disgusting.
Yeah, a little serious from there. Let's talk baseball. Let's get into something that's a little bit serious, but kind of uplifting after that note. Like we said with the Rangers, they're gonna be there. I think they've cemented a spot on the playoffs. We said, are they gonna falter from first place? They're doing it, man, and they're just keep doing it. They have the guys there. They're going to make moves. The guy there that just came up. I want to give you a story, Jacob, of one of their pitchers that made a debut. Alex, don't get me wrong. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. I'm gonna go with Spees. He was coaching youth baseball last summer. in Carolina, and he was a 2nd round pick in the draft in 2016 from the Rangers, but he retired in 2021 just because he didn't think anything was going to happen from baseball, and just to protect his mental health and his family. But then he this year he came back to the minors this year. He wanted to give him one last shot, one last hurrah, and in the double A and triple A, he posted a 1 ERA in 36 innings, averaging 14.8 strikeouts per 9 innings while allowing just one homer. So they called him up and they said, you know what, let's do this, and he struck out in or not in order because it was an inning-ending double play with strike him out, throw him out, but he struck out 3 of the Rays All-Stars in Yandy Diaz, Randy Arozarena, and I'm forgetting the last one. That's my bad. Wander Franco, Yandy Diaz, and Randy Arozarena. And honestly, that's just what you love to see from baseball. That's why you get romantic about baseball, and that's just what the Rangers are. They're just dudes who are doing it. So congrats to you, Alex. Love to see stories like that. The Rangers continue to do it, man, and good for them as they're just a team that they're just they're unstoppable. I mean I don't want to say that because they've had their struggles, but they've just been so great, man. Do you think they have it in them to fall, or do you think they've cemented their first place?
I think that they have enough momentum with the team as is to pull through and make a deep run in playoffs. Could they benefit from a couple of trades? Absolutely. Any team that we've talked about could benefit from some trades. But I think they're put together really well. They've got a strong offense. Great infield. I mean, you saw it. They were all stars. There were literally 6 guys on the field. All of them were Rangers. That was incredible to watch. Jonah Heim seems to be this young sensation catcher. Could could be in the conversation with the great catchers like Sean Murphy and Will Smith in the near to come future. Um, it's really great to see what the Rangers have been able to put together. It's refreshing to see a new team atop the AL West, other than the Astros. We thought it might be the Angels or Mariners, but that's not the case so far this year, and probably won't be the rest of this year. Um, but to see them doing it and performing at such a high level for such a consistent period of time, is great. I love to see that, and like I said, I think they're built to last. I think they're a team that's hopefully going to be in the conversation for at least the next couple of years, if not the next um, decade or so. I genuinely think the Rangers, they got their new stadium, um, they got fresh blood. I
They're
mean, it's
hosting
like
the All-Star
it's
game next year. They released a logo
it's
already.
everything's kind of rolling for the Rangers right now. And as a franchise, you love to see these kind of renewals of the franchise. I mean, look at the Orioles. Same kind of thing going
Look
on
at the
there, where they're just a
Reds.
fun team. Yeah, the Reds maybe not completely back this year, but next year and the years to come, they're going to be a nuanced franchise who actually draw fans into their stadium, which is great to see. Great for baseball. What you want to see. So good stuff for the Rangers. I think they're going to make a deep playoff run. I think they're one of the top candidates. Other than the Orioles and I mean, you can argue the Astros, the Rays as the top candidates to win the World Series from the AL perspective. So we'll see, but like I said, I think the Rangers have it in them to continue playing good baseball and finish atop the AL West and make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yep, I mean that's what the Rangers are equipped to do, man, and they've done it without Jacob DeGrom, like we've said. They're just doing it, man. I want to give a shout out before we end this video to Dane Dunning, who was one of the guys they had highlighted. He has a sub-3 ERA and has stepped in and has looked better than he could ever have done, putting up Jacob DeGrom-esque stats, if you will, for the Rangers, which is good. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Let's Talk Baseball. If we didn't get to the series, we are unfortunately sorry for you, but we will get to them in the next ep. But yeah, man, it's gonna be an exciting week of baseball. We could have the Orioles or the Rays 4 games back if a sweep were to happen of first place in the East, and we're gonna cover that when we get back. I'm your host Michael Rua, joined by my good friend and co-host Jacob Payne, and we will see you next time.